Hello and welcome back to the channel and a new video. So in this episode we're going to be setting up 6 breeding tanks, mainly for Apistogramma, but I may do something with some Ancestors. You'll have to wait and see. If you're interested in this, then follow along, and what we'll do is we'll go from bare tank up to setting up what I see as a breeding project. This is probably a good time to ask you guys to like and subscribe. So if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, put your bell notifications on, because this massively supports us on YouTube. There are other support options, so if you look down below you can become a member, where we do member only videos and stuff, and as the membership grows we'll also be looking at doing live streams that are members only live streams. But you don't have to do that. I'm not asking for that. If you want to support, you're more than welcome to. The best way to support, as I mentioned, is to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave a comment, share it with a couple of your friends. Let's crack on with the video. Deliveries arrived, so my tanks are in where they'll go. I do need to paint the backs of those. Let's get the backs painted and pick up from there. That's the first coat done, so it's just a basic artist's acrylic. Doesn't matter if it's matte or gloss, it's irrelevant, it will just seal against the glass anyway. And the idea of the first coat is just like a base layer, something to build up on. It's not perfect, there will be gaps in it. Sometimes you get bits that just don't stick because of silicone and stuff. I should have wiped them really, but I haven't. We'll let that dry, we'll put another coat on, check how that is, and then we'll spin them round and start setting the tanks up. Second coat done, just drying, and then there's a couple of touch-ups, so where it hasn't sort of stuck very well, I'll do a couple of touch-ups. I'm not worried about drips and stuff, but what I'll do once I've done that is I'll run a blade up the edge and across the top, just to make sure that there's no sort of hangover. But top ones are looking pretty good. It's the second ones down that probably need a bit of touch-up work, and then once we've got that done, we'll get them in place, and I'll keep a gap between them just in case there's any movement in the rack itself. Morning, it's the next day here. I didn't get as much done as I hoped to yesterday. Tanks are all in situ. I'll flip the camera around and show you what we're doing today. So no lights on yet, only the room lights. And I just wanted to mention that these Aquarium tanks always come with a paper base. So there's paper, silicone on. You can take it off, but I just prefer to leave it on. So today we're going to put some filters in. We are just using double sponge filters. Any of you that watch my show know that I've got an air curtain. So the white pipe, this one here, is my air curtain, so that runs all my air pumps. I do need to put another couple of valves in there, but what I might do down the side here where the elbow is, actually put a T-piece in and bring the pipe up higher, so I don't have to loop them from the bottom. So I need to have I've definitely got a T-piece. I need to have a look if I've got any pipes and cap. Let's get the filters in. I thought I had an elbow, but I don't have an elbow. I'm going to have to go down to Screwfix to get one. I found some spare pipes and some that are already sort of fitted, so I don't need pipe work. And the plan with all of these is to have sand substrate. So I'm going to do the bottom 3 different to the top 3. So the bottom 3 are deliberately going to be set up to raise fry. And because I'm raising fry, I want them to have a bit of safety and a bit of protection. So the plan is to use flame moss in these. So a lump of flame moss and a bit of rock. Now I do have some holy lava rock, so it's lava rock with drilled out, and I'll put a piece of that in each of those tanks. Now the top are going to be slightly different, so I am looking to use the top 3 for Apisto breeding tanks. And again, I'm going to use sand. I'm going to use plenty of botanicals. I am using tap water in these because the market here, I want to breed them on tap water, but I will manage the pH either with a buffer or with tannins and stuff, you know, soften it that way. So bottoms are specifically grow out, tops are specifically breeders. And then in the tops, I'm going to use some breeding caves. So I'm going to use these. My cockatoides that are in the house, that I've got a larger one of these, I need to make sure they can fit in and out of that. But the other two, I'll use the smaller igloos. I do have some options with caves should I need to. But let's get the sand in. I am having to use steps to do this. I'll spread that out in a second. And if you don't pour it, so you leave the bag low. So GB tip for you. You don't get any dust come up. Not sure if that's going to be enough, but let's give that one a try. See, this one I can probably spread it out a bit better. Yeah, that's a much nicer amount in this tank. Probably need a bit more in this one. An issue, I might have to use a different sand in one of these middle tanks, which is going to proper do my OCD. But it is what it is. I'm going to have to pour this one. Let's just put this out. So it doesn't really serve a purpose. I'm not going to plant in it. Doesn't need to be sort of super deep or anything like that. It just needs to cover the bottom. And then the same on this one, really. Just needs to be a base covering. I probably could go a bit deeper, but right, I need to have a nose now, see if I can find this other sand. I actually run out of that sand, but I did have a bit of a different sand from Maidenhead Aquatics. So what I'd ended up doing was in this tank here, I mixed the two together, so that's sort of the result. And then because I've got some left, I've capped those other two sands just to keep the colour uniform. It's not as yellow as those, but my OCD would have killed me. I mean, even to the point where I'd originally planned, you see the gaps, I'd originally planned to line them up and it would have left me a small gap either side of the top. But I have managed to sort of overcome my OCD a little bit, and I've left a gap here. So at the moment I've got the brine shrimp hatchery on there, but I am going to put some small potted plants on there just to sort of give me a nice natural background, if that makes sense. Little update then, we've got water in the middle three. I do need to add a few bits to those, and I've temporarily got a polycarb or a bit of polycarb over the top of them and turn them down really low. What happens when the bubbles splash, they spit out. So I have been out and picked up some polycarb sheets. I've filled one of the top tanks, but I need to sort out the airline at the side. So I've been out and picked up an equal tier T-piece. So I said it was an elbow earlier, but it wasn't the elbow I didn't have. It was a T-piece. So I need to get these cut, trimmed, and I think the plan is, well, you'll see the plan in a second. So that's literally took me a couple of minutes to do. Now what I could do is make that a bit taller and have it going across the middle of these tanks like the ones underneath do. But I think, sorry for the finger, I think what would be better is if we just cable tied it there and it's sort of tidy and away in the corner. Just cable tied it to that conduit just to stop it sort of bowing. I mean, I could leave it, but it would bow over time. Almost a long day. I've filled up 5 of them. I'll explain why the 6th one isn't filled up shortly. But I'm about to do H2O maker. These are all tap water, so H2O maker will take out any chlorine, and a little GB trick. If you leave water standing 24 hours, any chlorine evaporates. Because I've used sand, I'm going to put a bit of crystal clear water in just to try and clump the fine particles together. I will add some Bacta. So milli 1 I'm going to use, just a sprinkle of that to each tank. And in the top tanks, I'm going to add some dark extract and some botanicals. So I do have soak in some catappa leaves and stuff, so those are going to go into the top tanks, but I may wait to do those top tanks until I've got all three going. So talking of all three, the reason I didn't do the third one was because I had a little bit of a wobble in this corner, almost like this corner was pushing forward. So what I've ended up doing is doubling up on the matting on that, just to take that imperfection out. I do have this one slightly taller by about a couple of mil, but I'm sure that will sit down a bit better. And as you can see, I've cut all new polycarbonate lids. I have run out of these little devices, the hangers, so I've had to order some of those off Amazon, and I'll be here tomorrow. So let's get some H2O maker in, some Bacta and some crystal clear water, and I'll probably hang off on the dark extract. Oh, I know what I need to do. Put the light on the top rack. So as you all know, I'd been looking for a light for the top of this rack and reached out to Hygger. Hygger have kindly sent me this Hygger Aquarium extendable light, which is a HG918, and this is the 25 watt version. So I'm going to open it, have a look, go through it with you guys. So I might need to sort of pause and just get this out of the box before we continue. Comes with the power adapter, instructions in multiple languages. It does come with a bracket each side that can be slid up and down, and if you they stop at the end, but you can actually take those off and replace those with the standard sort of metal bracket. So it comes with both. I quite like the look of these ones, and they do give you a nice sort of height. Let's get this plugged in and I'll go through the settings with you guys. So if we look at the controller, we have from the bottom up, power, on and off. If we switch on, we've then got a timer button. So the second button, you'll see 3 timer options. So whatever they are, 8, 10, 12 hours. And the color changes to represent what timer slot you've got. Next to that, we've got what looks like 2 arrows. And what the 2 arrows does, it flips between the light options. So you can have red and blue, white, red and blue. I'll probably just use the white. And then the final button just cycles through brightness. And you click it, it sort of goes through the cycle. So likewise, if you've got all of them on, it goes through the cycle. Oh, you can just put red. Oh, it's my eyes. And if you've got red and blue, you just get cycle as well. So I'll probably just use it on white, which is daylight white. If you're interested in this light, there'll be a link in the description to that for UK and a link for US. And as you guys know, I'm partnered with Hygger. If you use the links in the US and buy anything, it supports us as well. So that'd be much appreciated. So with all that said, let's get this up on the tanks. So still only have 2 of the tanks filled, but the dark water extracts in, the botanicals are in, the light's on. So I've got that on white, sitting roughly centrally across those 3 tanks. I might dim it down a little bit actually, and there are still bubbles on the glass. I've got catappa leaves in, and I've put some fish flakes in to let it start cycling, but I'm quite pleased with the light. It's using its original brackets and it fits absolutely perfectly. So I'm impressed with that. Let's get this last tank filled up. Whilst I'm tentatively filling up this last tank, and fingers crossed it doesn't crack, I wanted to just bring something to your attention and why I've left the gap. So I've left the gap in case obviously there's flexibility in the tin band, but I've also left the gap in such a way that if I get cross tank aggression from different species of males or females, then I can always slide a board down here a blackboard, bit of plastic, something like that, just to sort of break the view. And I've done that on both shelves. So just a GB tip worth noting, and a hello in the shadows, in the reflections. Just while these tanks are cycling, I found these little adhesive lids, well, these little adhesive buttons on Amazon. I can't remember what they're called, a self-adhesive cupboard pulls or something like that. They weren't expensive, but on top of the polycarbonate lids, I think they make an absolutely great little way of lifting them out rather than flicking out the corners and stuff like that. So I've installed them all over this rack actually, but I got them mainly for the 6 tanks that we're doing the breeding setup in. Little update on the breeding tanks then, and the actual tanks themselves. I've been having difficulty with the pH, not sure why. I have used tap water. I don't think it's because of the sand, but I have been using a buffer in there. So I've been using this prop pH buffer to 6.5. I've been doing these ones today, so you leave them half hour and you check them and then you redose and so on. But the ones with the green spots are ready, so I've only got one ready at the moment. I've moved the fry that were down on the bottom shelf up onto the rack, so these are in the first tank on the left on the rack, and above those I'll move the adults out of the house into that tank. First pair are in, and these are Cockatoides cichlids. I had planned on waiting a while before I move these 2 in. They are a little bit skittish at the moment because they have literally just gone in. I'm doubtful whether the male will actually fit into this cave, but we'll soon find out. We'll let them settle in, get back up in a bit. I left the room for about 3 minutes, came back in. She was straight in the cave. So the first fish are in, albeit they're juveniles growing out, and you've already seen the first pair, so they're an existing pair. I do have some other fish coming, so if you want to see that, make sure you like and subscribe. They're due in next week. Until next time, take care everybody, bye bye.